Life of a champion of armless golfer. How you doing? Good morning to you.
Good morning. How are you from Florida? Nice to see you. Tom McAuliffe with you.
Hi, thank you for joining us, Tom. Gosh, so I started picking up this book a little bit on Amazon. I was like, you know what? I have to actually get a copy. So I just ordered it myself and a hard copy of it. Can you explain us the book of Mr. Mulligan?
Sure. I've been a writer in magazine land for 25, 30 years, mostly in the audio and video production space, doing monthly magazines, columnists, that kind of thing. This is my first book. Basically, about a year and a half ago, we were searching through one of our houses, and we came across a trunk, and inside were old clippings from the 1920s, pictures, all kinds of stuff. My grandfather basically lost both of his arms in a streetcar accident when at the age of 9, and taught himself how to play par golf, and traveled the country in the 30s and 40s doing positive thinking talks, long before, the power of positive thinking and those kind of things became popular. So he used golf as a way to reach people, and was responsible too for helping pass some of our laws about disability people and giving them the rights that they deserve.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting story.
Now, can you kind of share a little bit more? Because I heard the streetcar accident, and how he lost both his arms at a young age. That must have been difficult to adapt. From being able to use an extremity of your body, and to now you have to live the rest of your life not being able to use it. How did he adapt, and how did that help him become who he was?
Well, his saying was basically the only handicap in life is your mind. And he was a big believer in repetition, successive repetition towards perfection. A lot of people back then thought that he would wind up selling pencils on the corner.
Right.
And he was just not going to have it.
Right.
He got mad. He said to himself, "How dare you think that I can't compete with you in the world marketplace? I'll show you what's happening." So, and of course, he was a caddy before the accident. Okay. Basically, what happened was it was fall. And I don't know if you've ever been up in North, but in those big cities, a lot of times after the summer, the first rain, the roadways get very slick. There's a lot of oil and gas and stuff like that. So that's what had happened. He was on his way to the store to meet his mom. The McAuliffe household lived right up the block from the local golf course where Tommy had learned how to caddy. And basically, he was on his way to help his mom with the store, slipped, fell across the tracks with both of his arms out like this.
Yeah.
And before they could get him, a streetcar came along and severed both of his arms at the shoulder.
Yeah, I mean, you just compare, medicine from then to today. I can just only imagine how, what type of struggle that was just for the healing process. Now, I mean, this was also a time period where, if, you losing both arms, they would almost say, just give up on you at this moment. And they weren't the society was not as much of a friendly society, I say. Okay, let's, rehabilitate. Let's try to, figure something out for him. There was a lot of adversity that he had to go through. And so I guess, when you come across this and you get the inspiration, what gets you inspired to even to want to write something like this?
Well, I've always wanted to write a book.
Yeah.
And I got tired of waiting for Simon & Schuster to call. So, if you want something done right, sometimes you got to do it yourself. So we published this book, and we're doing all the sales and stuff ourselves. But I'm not sure if I'm answering the question or not. I just think that it's such a inspiring story.
I was just asking the inspiration behind them.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, you said, is this your first book that you're reading?
It is. It is my very first book, and this is one of 5. What we're doing, we call the McAuliffe series. I'm working on one on General Arthur McAuliffe, who said nuts to the Germans in World War II.
Yes.
We're doing one on Krista McAuliffe, the space shuttle teacher, an astronaut. We're doing one on Dick McAuliffe, who was part of the World Series champions Detroit Tigers in 1968.
Yeah.
And then lastly, we're doing a book on Governor Terry McAuliffe called Life of the Party. He was the governor of the state of Virginia for a number of years. And so that's the McAuliffe series. And with your permission, I thought that maybe I could just read a paragraph from the first chapter.
Yes, please. Yes, please.
This will give your listeners a kind of a feel for the book. So let's just start right there at the beginning. That's always the best place to start, isn't it? As the sun began to set on the crisp autumn day in southeastern Michigan, it cast a familiar golden glow of fall. It was the early 1960s, and Tommy McAuliffe teed up on the 18th hole at the Plum Hollow Country Club in the suburbs of Detroit, where he had played hundreds of times before. As soon as the driver hit the ball, Tommy knew he was in trouble. It was another heart attack, as the cancer that was to take his life a few years later began to make itself at home in his body. They say that your life passes before you when you die. ... The nightmarish sound was loud enough to crack teeth as the 2021 electric streetcar number 2013 tried to stop. Its steel wheels screeched against metal rails before it cleanly severed both arms just below the shoulder. Ever since, he has always been haunted by that deafening sound. 9-year-old Tommy McAuliffe's life both ended and began on that day in 1901. And this was before any kind of prosthetics, although Grandpa Tommy really had a precognition or a pre-thought that eventually there were going to be robotic arms, prosthetics that you could use. And so he was a forerunner in a lot of different ways as well.
So just off that first chapter, what is the format of this book and how it's been written out? I know it's a very short book. It's only about 120 pages, if I'm not mistaken. It really gets right down to the point.
Yeah. I'm a big believer that there is a lot of fluff in a lot of today's writing. I'm a very economic writer. I like books that are short and to the point. The American wherewithal to keep their train of thought and such like that. We have short attention spans these days, and so I don't know a whole lot of people that have the time to read through a 100,000 word novel. And why use 100,000 words when you can use 10,000 words to say the same thing, unless the author's getting paid by the word. It is short and to the point.
Yeah, and that's what's fascinating too. It's because there's also a lot of lessons that you can learn, or you could take away from this book just by reading Mr. Mulligan. What is one of the things that writing this book you wanted people to take away the most?
Wow, great question. Let me think on that, Justin. I think that the most important thing is that other people are going to think about you what you think about you. Real true.
Yeah.
Other people are going to think about you what you think about you. And the whole mind over matter thing, which was later expounded on. There's a book called As a Man Thinketh. It came out in 1927, and it talks about the power of using the human mind to overcome things. So I think that was really the kind of one thing that I think surprises a lot of people, surprised me, is that we do have this capability. And as sports enthusiasts, when we get out there on the tee, when we get out there at the plate, when we're playing baseball, we're playing football, we're playing soccer, whatever, we need to be able to reach our perfection. As far as when we're playing, we need to use all of the facilities that we have, and that includes naturally mental.
Now, your grandfather left a tremendous legacy on that, in the world of golf. What type of impact do you think he left if it wasn't for him, overachieving his goals and his dreams after his accident and being able to be successful as he was?
Well, and you talk about him being successful. I mean, here's a man who basically started his own company as an insurance repair, had his own magazine with 30,000 subscribers called Crutch and Cane.
Yeah.
Was responsible for going up on Capitol Hill to talk about handicap rights and disability rights. Many times it was interesting. Many times a politician would never allow a lobbyist to come into their office and talk to them about policy or things, but they would always allow Tommy to come and talk about golf. And we found out that they had a putting green in the basement of the Capitol back in the 30s. And Tommy would regularly come and give kind of commissions to the senators. Many times the senators, while they wouldn't talk policy, they would talk to Tommy because of his pseudo-celebrity, if you will. They'd talk to him about golf. And then Tommy would always say, I went to the back nine to talk policy. And so yeah, he used his situation to better off his community.
Now, we were talking a lot about this book and about your grandfather. He's also written a book, I believe, that's now just recently published called called Handicap, right?
No Handicaps. That's the second book that I edited for him. Basically, we found a manuscript that he had written back in 1938 and 1939. Yeah. Now, what's amazing about this is that he typed each letter of a 25,000 word manuscript, one letter at a time.
Yeah.
With a pencil in his mouth, hitting each individual key. Yeah. Now I've sat down and tried to do that, and it's damn near impossible.
Using 10 fingers is not easy.
No, yeah, I got 10, and I can barely do it. But he typed that book called No Handicaps, and it is mostly more kind of technical, if you will. It talks about using the power of the mind to overcome, positive affirmations, different techniques you can use to help overcome your thing. And it's called No Handicaps, and it is available as an ebook. Both books are available as an ebook, as well as the hard copy. I prefer hard copies these days.
Yes.
But that's kind of an amazing book. And we all come back to golf. We're in the process of trying to get Tommy McAuliffe put into the PGA Hall of Fame. And I recently came back from the Masters tournament in Georgia, where I had the honor of meeting Jack Nicklaus and presenting him a copy of the book as well. Now, here's a guy who's 82 years old.
Yeah.
82. And he's still out there on the greens, hitting it, out on the fairways and hitting it. That's kind of also interesting. I just had a thought, was that Grandpa Tommy wasn't really big on long drives, but he was accurate. He was straight. He would hit that ball, and that ball would go straight down the fairway. Wouldn't go very far, maybe 200 yards. But on the greens for putting, he was deadly. He would tuck the club in between his cheek and his and use his full body. In golf, they talk talk about the full body swing, using your entire body to hit the ball. And he was a perfect example of that. The exciting thing too is we just are in conversation with a company called Roadside Attractions to maybe make it into a movie.
That would be awesome. I would love to see whether a documentary or a movie, resemblance of that. That would be such honorable.
And we'll have you play the part of the caddy.
Let's go. I'm down. I'm set up. Sign me up for that. And so, because one thing that really pops out to me, you talk about the struggles that he's been through, and there was Tiger Woods kind of came off of a very similar injury years back, and he probably shouldn't be playing golf today. And just how your grandfather's been able to make a career, a life, a story worth telling and remembering, inspirational story. I can only hopefully imagine that Tiger Woods took some of that, but comparisons on Tiger's comeback to how he's been. Can you compare and relate to maybe some of the struggles that he's gone through to what your grandfather went through?
I saw Tiger's at the Masters. He did pretty well, actually.
Yeah.
But you could tell, especially on the tee, when he would drive off there towards the end, there'd be a little grimace or a little bit of a, truly one of the greatest golfers. Started when he was, 6 years old, I think. Mm-hmm. But in interviews throughout his life, Tiger has often talked about the power of the mind and using it to help placate his injuries. He's a wonderful ambassador of golf. Grandpa Tommy basically used golf. He felt that there were principles in golf that were directly related to life. Things like fair play, things like effort, repetition, doing something over and over again. He basically, from the time he was able to, held a golf club in his hand for 30, 40 years until it became second nature for him.
Now, you're working on all these books. You have a couple of new releases coming out, hopefully within a month or so. Where can people, I believe if I don't have it correct here, there is actually a website people could go to. Is that correct?
They can go to author Tom McAuliffe. I spelled the last name McAuliffe.
Is that correct on the
Tom
screen?
McAuliffe. Yes, sir. That's exactly it. Or it's available on Amazon, Kindle, iBooks. It's at your. There's nothing like walking into a bookstore and seeing your book on the shelf for the very first time, and that happened to me a week and a half ago. And I started crying. It was pretty cool.
I love
it. Amazon, Kindle, iBooks, Barnes and Noble, the bookstore, the Book Baby Bookstore is a wonderful thing. And I would love to hear from them. If you get the book, I would love to have a review, good or bad, about the book and what you think I could have or should have done better. Hopefully you'll like the other ones.
I don't think that there's nothing that you could go wrong in this story because, it's told out of a different point of view, different eye set, and, maybe someone else could write their version of it and it won't be the same. There's definitely no wrong ways to look at, the life of, one of the, really a great golfer and one of an inspirational golfer.
Well, I appreciate it. I considered myself very fortunate to be his special grandson. Yeah. And I have very vivid memories of sitting on his desk and watching him use the typewriter with a pencil or pick up the phone with his shoulder and cheek and carry on his life.
Now, and it's interesting because back on Monday, I actually lost my grandfather. Yeah, 93 years
Oh,
old.
sorry.
Yeah,
Wow.
and thank you. And it's like being able to talk to you and that relationship that you've had. If I'm not mistaken, you did mention that you were his favorite.
Yeah, he spoiled me rotten. That's for sure. Uh, lots of, uh, lots of ice cream. That was my favorite. I had just now a flashback memory where we would go out into the backyard and he would have my dad lie down and put a tee in his mouth and would use a driver to take the ball off of. And so I think that's where I got my good looks is from that.
So, yeah,
I
okay.
mean,
So,
can you
Michael,
imagine? Can you imagine if
yeah,
your dad
that's
hit you with a golf club by accident? That's
yeah.
how he got
No,
his good looks.
the confidence that you had to do that. Not many people could say that they could do. Are that confident in their their swing and their accuracy to be able to not hit somebody.
I'm
And
not sure I'd be lying down putting that ball in my
no,
mouth. I don't think
no.
so. Even though
And
even if it was my dad or my grandpa.
yeah, I just oh gosh, that's um, ooh, that just gives me chills. Okay, so I do want to ask now. My co-host, who's not here today, he's also part. He has cerebral palsy. Well, yeah, and he's prone to a wheelchair. And he has he does the Special Olympics, and
Yay.
so how much has your grandfather kind of increased in influenced in that in growing I don't want to say because the way that he carried himself, he didn't need no special treatment. I
Didn't
mean, he
want
went
it.
out there with everybody else.
It would when if you were to show sympathy towards him, or
Yeah.
like when he would go and speak at these various civic groups and stuff like that, he would always say, "No hint of sympathy. I don't want it. I don't need it. And if you do that in the intro, I won't come out." And
So
that was true
what's
in
the
vaudeville
yeah?
as well as during his speaking tours in the 30s and 40s.
So what's the greatest message that you can provide after watching your grandfather, right, writing about it to these people who do need that extra help that can't function part of their bodies like they can't should be able to or can what's the best way that you could help them out in words of inspiration?
I would say two things. One,
Yeah.
there is no handicap in life except what's in your mind.
Yeah.
And two, other people are going to think about you what you think about you. Many times it's this self-talk. When I read through his notes, he would talk about the negative self-talk that we all experience in life. No, you can't do that. Who do you think you are trying to play golf with no arms?
Yeah.
Those kinds of things. And that the power of the mind, or the lack thereof, was really the key to living a full and happy, successive life. Yeah.
Now, you're writing all these books, but obviously you don't just wake up one day, doing these, getting to decide, oh, hey, I'm just going to write all these books. What have you done throughout your time that kind of led you up to creating these books?
Well, I was a magazine editor for some 25 years, mostly in the video and audio production space. I used to be the editor of Government Video Magazine, worked at Videography Magazine and such like that. So I've always wanted to write a book, and I don't know why, quite frankly, that I've waited this long. Although there are a lot of new self-publishing. The exciting thing about the virus and such, and us being in lockdown for a couple of years, is that now we have all these new independent books that are coming out, and all the
Oh, got disconnected. There we go.
it's about NASA and how these three black women who were wonderful at math helped us get into space and eventually towards the moon. It's called Hidden Figures. I highly recommend it.
Yes.
But at the end of that film, I said to myself, how many other great stories have been suppressed or just
Mhm.
neglected that we don't know
Yes.
about. That we don't know
Oh,
about. And these books, these 5 series, the McAuliffe family has quite a few characters in our family tree, if you will.
now is it on all these McCullough's books? Are they all related? Are we all? Is it all one family or?
Yeah, the McAuliffe clan from Newmarket in County Cork, Ireland.
Uh huh.
We're all basically interrelated. At the very least, we're cousins, going back to John Michael McAuliffe in the late 1800s, who came across fleeing the potato famine in Ireland.
Okay.
A lot of people don't know that in the late 1800s, Ireland had a big famine, and a lot of
Yeah.
people died from starvation or immigrated to the United States. So yeah, McAuliffes were all related.
And that's incredible. I'm actually very so I like I said, I just ordered like 'cause I read the first 2 pages on Amazon, and I'm like, I got to get myself a copy. So I'm still waiting for the copy that I ordered for Mr. Mulligan. I'm actually very intrigued and really wanting to look into the Mad Dog book that's coming out
Yes,
about Dick McAuliffe, sorry.
no problem.
And I mean, I recommend just anyone. Me, if there's a really diverse group, and you guys are really spread out, and I got to
Yeah,
ask: Is
we got an
there?
astronaut, we got a
Yeah,
politician, we got a golfer.
when is
He,
there going to be a book about you?
wow, never.
Never. No, come
I
on.
don't know that I would do an autobiography. I don't know if my life has been that interesting. Um, but I'm anxious after I get this 5 series done,
Yeah.
which should be the end of the year. These books should come out fairly rapidly. And mostly I want to document for
Mhm.
future generations these hallmarks of our family.
Yes.
But I'm anxious to try some fiction, maybe
Fiction.
some sci-fiction, some sci-fi
Okay.
or something different.
Yeah.
And so I think after I finish these, the McAuliffe series, the 5 books, I'll take a crack at doing some fiction work.
So right now you're sharing the legacy of your family, and then you'll be starting your own
Well, maybe if
afterward.
we're lucky. Um, I was in Barnes and Noble the other day, and I saw a little 7-year-old girl
Yeah.
pointing to a big huge pile of books display, and turning to her mommy and saying, "Mom, what are those?" We don't read very much anymore.
Right.
Um,
That. Yeah.
we're exploring audiobooks too, by the way.
Yeah.
We've thought about maybe, a lot of people when they're commuting, you can
Uh-huh.
put a book in the CD player or the tape player and listen to a book as you're driving down the road.
Well, it's interesting because you say that, and then they have this new a new app that now you can either read or listen to the key points of a book now within like matters of minutes. So they'll just read highlights and key purposes that you need to gain from the book in like 15 minutes, and they'll tell you it. And for
Wow.
me, I'm an old school person. I like I am picky on what I do read, but I love to read I love to have a physical copy in my hand. It's a collection that you just you start keeping. It's like, for me, like, for example, DVDs. You have all these apps and platforms that you could stream them on. I still like to have a physical copy, and that's why I purchased Mr. Mulligan. I'm excited to purchase all these
Thank you.
other ones, especially No Handicap. Is there an order of which they're going to be published in? Do we know that timeline or?
We do.
Okay.
Basically, we have Mr. Mulligan and No Handicaps out now.
Yeah.
The book called Nuts,
Yes.
General McAuliffe and the Battle of the Bulge, will come out probably July timeframe. We're in
Okay.
final edit now. And then followed right up with Krista McAuliffe. That's
Yeah.
called Throttle Up. She was the first teacher in
Yes.
space and first private citizen to go into space, and of course died in the Space Shuttle Challenger disaster.
Okay.
And that'll come out probably July timeframe.
Okay.
And then in late September, we'll have Mad Dog, and I'll make sure you get a copy of that.
Well, I'm excited for that one.
The Detroit Tigers happened in 1968, and there were race riots. I vividly remember going down to Tiger Stadium, and the 3-block area at Michigan and Trumbull was sacred ground, was neutral territory. If you could get to those 3 blocks around Tiger Stadium, you would be safe. But around there were riots and burning buildings over civil rights in 1968. Tell you this quick story. So it's the 3rd game of the World Series. And RCA recording artist Jose Feliciano is going to sing the national anthem. And so we all stand up, and the announcer comes on and says, "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome RCA recording artist Jose Feliciano." And so we all look to the dugout and to the home plate where the performer usually comes out to sing the national anthem. There was no Jose. Where is Jose? We look out into left field, and sitting there with his guitar on a little stool is Jose Feliciano. And he sings what is, to my mind, one of the best versions of our national anthem, acoustically with just his guitar. And by the end of that, I don't think there was a dry eye in the house. But I vividly remember that. My relatives are all Irish firefighters on the Detroit Fire Department. And my uncle would talk about how he would have a hose in one hand and a machine gun in the other to protect the firefighters during the riots of 1968 in Detroit.
Is this all in the book?
It is. It will be.
Okay. And then when are you looking for the life of the party?
So then Mad Dog, Dick McAuliffe and the Detroit Tigers, that'll happen probably late September, October. And then at the end of the year, I'm working on a book called The Life of the Party. And it's about Governor Terry McAuliffe, who was the governor of the state of Virginia for a number of years.
Okay.
And that'll happen around Christmas time. So you could have the whole set. It would make a wonderful Christmas
gift. Listen, I'm looking actually to collect the entire set. So
we'll make sure you get a copy for sure.
And I would love to get you back on as these books starts coming out, and let's talk about the books and kind of break down and share the thoughts and opinions and all that stuff when it comes once these books get published.
Well, I appreciate that very much. We'll always bring it back to sports. Because that's what, get off the couch, turn off the television, pick up a book, or go outside and play some golf. Or play catch with your friends or whatever. But I find, and that's the first thing, I'm 27 years old. I just got into golf myself, probably this winter time. So I'm excited to get out there to learn about the sport. And I'm going to pray for you.
What I'm learning is that I feel like, after reading Mr. Mulligan, once I get that and that's going to help me out a lot with the sport and the dynamic of it. I also do see here, are you working on podcast for your,
I was a radio DJ for a number of years, so it's a natural thing for me. I've never thought about doing it.
Okay.
But seeing you do it, I think I should take a shot. No, I'm only teasing. It's certainly a new way that we are, not new, but fairly new way of we're learning how to use podcasts to communicate ideas. To share our thoughts and our stories. So I'm going to take a look at that. Maybe you can help me educate me about that.
Absolutely. Listen, I am 100% forwarded. Listen, I will, if you're interested, I will love to, mentor you in a sense. And this is why we created what we do, is so that we could share, listen, there's more than one aspect of the way to look at things. Also, to share your opinions, to share your knowledge. I'm sure people will love to hear more about the McAuliffe family.
People always want to talk about sports, so that's why sports talk is so popular. And I was sorry that I couldn't meet Trey.
He just started his vacation. He's actually down. He's in Georgia right now, but he's going to be down in Florida here this weekend.
Well, I wish he would look me up. I'm down here in Destin, Florida. It's a beautiful area of the country. We call it the Emerald Coast. And there's a lot of authors that live down here.
Okay. Yeah, I'll let him know that you're down there, and maybe I'll shoot him your email, and then he can reach out to you.
I would love it. I would love it.
See that. But Tom, thank you so much for your time to be on the show. Hopefully we could do this again throughout the year. And yeah, don't forget to pick up Mr. Mulligan. That's available in hard copies as well as available on Amazon and Kindle. And
or stop by the website. And if you'd like to, what kind of books do you want to see out on the market? I'd love to hear readers' ideas all the time. And you can go to authortommcauliffe.com and keep up with my shenanigans. And I really appreciate the opportunity there, Justin.
Yeah, and congratulations for being an Amazon best-selling book.
Thank you.
Take care. We'll talk to you soon.
God bless.
Bye.